if there's a will, there's a way in our nation's politics to do something lawful, get legislation passed or change rules and regulations as the law allows, to achieve the results we're talking about. So if you want the elections better protected in November, it can be done. Are you on vacation right now? How long is your Labor Day break? 6 weeks? Well, Congress has been out for 6 weeks. Doesn't get back till next week.
Hope you're having a good holiday. Congress is out for 6 weeks. Don't get back till September 8th. In the meantime, we face a crisis with the Biden-Harris regime trying to jail Trump. Aliens likely able to vote without much pushback. So they need to get back, deal with the government funding measure, and ensure that the government doesn't get any money until the Republic is protected. Call your members of Congress now at 202-225-3121.
Yeah. Call your members of Congress. Now, I'll be talking to Congress to the degree anyone will let me talk to them. But it's much better if you talk to Congress and share your views. And so there's several issues. Now, Jack Smith and the DOJ has spent officially $35 million trying to jail Trump. $35 million. And that doesn't include how much money the White House has been spending trying to jail Trump, or the CIA and the Defense Department, all the other agencies that have been aligned against him. All of that has been funded. I shouldn't say, well, I'm trying to think, is it all of it? Well, I'm not going to do the counting in my head. Much of it has been funded by the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. So when they come back, there's a continuing resolution they have to vote on by September, meaning a continuing resolution that allows the government to continue to operate until the new Congress comes in, assuming that's how long the continuing resolution is, in 2025. And as part of that continuing resolution, as a part of allowing Congress, allowing the government to be fully funded, or funded at all, or in part, they should require Jack Smith be defunded, in my view. They should implement federal law, change federal law, upgrade federal law to ensure that no foreign nationals are able to vote in our elections. Because right now it's prohibited. They're not allowed to vote. But there's no check in place. So they could add that into the law, saying, you know, look, in order to register to vote and vote, there has to be a documentation. There has to be verification of citizenship. And you need to go back to your rolls and make sure citizens are the only ones on the rolls. Don't you think that should be a requirement for full government funding for this continuing resolution? Now, some people don't even want a continuing resolution because it's such an the word of the day, abomination. It's basically a giant, big, fat check they write to the federal government with virtually no oversight and accountability. So it seems to me the least that can be done is that we get some key measures to defend the republic. Stop the election interference and the banana republic-style efforts to rig our elections by jailing Trump through Jack Smith and other abusers. Stop foreign nationals from being able to vote with virtually no check in place other than a pinky promise and a federal law that's rarely enforced or investigated, certainly by this corrupt Justice Department. As I've noted, you know, stop funding the censorship, prohibit the censorship. There are all sorts of other things that they could throw in there. But how about one thing, huh? How about one thing? If we can't even get one thing passed as part of these continuing resolutions, conservatives can't. And so, you know, as I said last week, you know, Kamala Harris is constantly being criticized, and correctly so, for not implementing her agenda now, saying, well, I'm going to do it later. Well, the same goes for Republicans. They oppose everything Biden's doing while fully funding it now. And they have a chance to stop that in 2 weeks. So get on the ball, get on the horn. Call your members of Congress, 202-225-3121. And if you don't know who your member of Congress is, figure it out. You know how to figure that out. The Internet's a wonderful invention. Although more seriously, all you do is call the switchboard. I think that you give them your zip code or your address. They probably could funnel you right through to your member. And senators, obviously, you know, there are only two in your state. Call them both. And don't worry if your members are Democrats. It has an impact. Certainly on the alien voting. I mean, the Democrats and the left are in a corner on this because no one really supports aliens voting. No, you know, few people are going to come out outright and say we should allow foreign nationals to vote with impunity, and we shouldn't have a law that makes it more difficult for them to do so. So politically, they don't want it to pass because I'm convinced they want aliens to be able to illegally vote. But publicly, they're going to have a hard time making that case. So it's an achievable goal to change the law to protect us from foreign nationals hijacking our elections and stealing your votes. And so you should let your members of Congress know that, yeah, you should shut the government down, if you agree with me. Of course, if you don't, you can let your members of Congress know that as well. You should be willing to shut the government down to protect our elections from being stolen by foreign nationals. I mean, to hear the left talk about foreign interference in our elections, of course, as part of a scheme and propaganda effort to destroy Trump's reputation and pretend that he's being run by Russians. Russia, 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 right? I'll get into more on that. But when it comes to actual foreign interference in our elections, which is taking basic steps to ensure foreign nationals aren't voting in our election, they're opposed to it. And of course, it's all part of a piece. It's perfectly consistent. They don't like voter ID. They don't like cleaning up elections. They don't like any basic election integrity measure because, in my view, they want to be able to steal elections when necessary. I mean, one thing, it occurred to me from meetings this week. We talked last week about the Supreme Court ruling that allowed Arizona to have restrictions about non-citizens being on state voter rolls, but would allow essentially, or wouldn't allow Arizona to make sure that non-citizens are on federal voting rolls. So, I mean, it's outrageous in that sense. But what's interesting is it now means, practically speaking, that every state can take actions to make sure non-citizens aren't on at least state voter rolls. Meaning voter rolls that are used, in theory, separate, you could separate the voting rolls and make them state-only voting rolls and make sure that make sure non-citizens are not on the rolls. And that can be done now. I mean, politicians want you to think there's, on every issue you care about, there's almost something important and relatively simple that can be done to achieve positive public policy results. And from Judicial Watch's perspective, in terms of transparency, accountability, and protecting the rule of law, whether it be on elections or anything else. And they want you to pretend, oh, we can't do it, or it's too hard. And it's never, and that's all a lie. All a lie. If there's a will, there's a way in our nation's politics to do something lawful, get legislation passed or change rules and regulations as the law allows, to achieve the results we're talking about. So if you want the elections better protected in November, it can be done. And Congress has an opportunity to do it when they get back. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.